Director of Proceedings this morning, who is the Deputy Executive Director in the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, Honorable Faustina Kalei, Deputy Minister of Education, Arts and Culture, Acting President of Namibia Teachers Union, Mr. Daniel Kumbu, Secretary General of NANTU, Ms. Loide Shanika, distinguished invited guests present here, and those who are joining virtually, stakeholders, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. I am delighted to be invited to this event, the Stakeholders Conference organized by the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture and the Namibia Teachers Union, NANTU, under the theme Revitalizing the Teaching Profession through the Professionalization of Educators in Namibia, and aimed at sharing information with relevant stakeholders on educators' professionalization and learning international best practices. I applaud the organizers of this conference for bringing together relevant education stakeholders from home and abroad to share information on the concept of educators' professionalization. I am particularly glad to learn that experts from Zambia, Nigeria, Jamaica, Ghana, Kenya, and South Africa, and Canada have been invited to share with us best practices on professional bodies for educators to enable us to come up with best models for Namibia. These countries, I'm informed, have functional educational or educators' professional bodies, and their experiences will surely go a long way in enriching our understanding of this important subject. I urge all participants to engage effectively with these experts and tap from their experiences. I must also thank those countries most profoundly for availing these experts to come here and share their experiences with us, and the experts themselves for agreeing to come, especially amid COVID, because COVID is still with us and it's a threat. And the fact that they could agree to come here is a recognition of the fact that we will prosper together and we will go down together. So you cannot say the fire is in your neighbor's yard and you need not expose yourself to the risk of putting it out. Thank you very much for being here. The teachers' professionalization is the main focus of the Continental Education Strategy for Africa 2016 to 2025, where its first strategic objective is to revitalize the teaching profession to ensure quality and relevance at all levels of education, while Sustainable Development Goal number 4 calls for a substantial increase in the supply of qualified teachers, especially in least developed countries, by the year 2063. The theme of this conference is thus appropriate, as it recognizes the importance of professionalization of educators and the need to invigorate the teaching profession, and it ties in very well with the vision and aspirations made at the continental level. The teaching profession in Namibia, like in many other African countries and the world, has been under pressure to become more effective and responsive to the needs of the people. This calls for speedy actions to ensure that the people's desire to have professional educators and improve the quality of the education system in Namibia is attained. The following measures have been taken as a result of recommendations agreed upon at the 2011 Education Conference in Namibia. Institutional cooperation was initiated, focusing on the development of policy frameworks and teachers-educators policies, and development of the draft educator policy to lay the groundwork for the establishment of the Professional Council for Educators to regulate all educators in Namibia. Director of Ceremonies, participants. Article 20 of the Namibian Constitution recognizes the right to education, which is a fundamental right and a foundation for peace peace and sustainable development. In line with this constitutional provision, the improvement of quality of education is part of the social progression pillar of Harambee Prosperity Plan 2. One of the actions under this pillar is to establish educators or teachers professional regulatory bodies by 2022 to improve the quality of training of educators and prescribe minimum standards for the profession for early childhood development and caregiver, pre-primary, primary, secondary, TVET instructors, and lecturers. A steering committee has been established to develop the Professional Educators Act in line with the AU recommendations in the Harambee Prosperity Plan 2. It is thus expected that the outcome of this conference will guide the steering committee towards the development of this policy. The above illustrates our policy's alignment to the African Framework of Standards and Competencies for the Teaching Profession, which is a measure taken to guarantee the adequate number and the competencies required to create excellent schools fit for the 21st century. The call for the establishment of professional guidelines at national, regional, and continental levels is done in order to support the cross-border mobility of teachers, as well as to support the recognition of qualification in lifelong learning across Africa. It is thus required that Namibia creates an enabling environment for the enforcement of admission requirements to educator training institutions, educator registration, promote their professional development, and regulate their education and training programs. In line with our development priorities, government is developing a national human resources development strategy and implementation plan expected to be finalized by 2022. Its implementation will promote the professional development of educators as well as their education and training programs to improve the quality of education. I want to conclude by reiterating our government receiving the biggest chunk of the national budget since independence. I would also like, in concluding, to emphasize the fact that education is a common good. It's the greatest equalizer. It is therefore important that all stakeholders in development, beyond government, would come forward and contribute their part to ensuring that our education sector is adequately resourced, that the standards that are put are complied with, in order that our young people whom we send to educational institutions would acquire the necessary competencies that would enable them to go out there and get employment and become the drivers of the development that we want to see in our countries, and also optimally benefit from it. So when corporates are contributing to the education and provision of skills of our young people, they are not showing solidarity with those people because they come from poor backgrounds. They are investing into ensuring that they will have members of the labor force who are properly skilled and would have high productivity and therefore enable them to optimize their profits. So we all have something to gain from ensuring that all our young people have the opportunity to be educated and that they get education of the highest quality. So let us all put our money into